And what better franchise to cover when tackling this new topic than the game that no one's ever played but everyone knows the meme to, Phoenix Wright. And even though the Ace Attorney series might not be filling in the courtroom gallery with rabid fans here in the States, our finger-pointing paralegal is popular enough in Asia to warrant his own manga, anime, and musical. You heard that right, musical.
First of all, stating that Ace Attorney is a game that no one's ever played, that's strike one.
The Ace Attorney series is Capcom's 9th most popular series, and the series has sold over 5 million copies worldwide. Yeah, no one has played it. You really should look into statistics before making sweeping generalizations like that. It took me 2 minutes to find that information.
Even if it is a joke, it doesn't work because of the contradicting evidence to the contrary. Sorry, you've taken too long to hop aboard the train and it left you at the station. In fact, when the first game was released on the DS in North America, copies were so hard to find because they were flying off the shelves. The third printing of the game sold out in a week. Get good.
That's a penalty for you, MatPat. Be careful, you might be held in contempt of court.
I'm the one who's supposed to say that.
You're not the judge!
Neither are you.
Shut up!
Let's start off the way that Phoenix presents his evidence and witnesses in court. He has a flair for the dramatic, often entering evidence or calling a witness at the very last second. In episode 3, when Phoenix is pressed to give an explanation of how Jack Hammer might have stolen a steel samurai costume, he surprises everyone by presenting an empty sleeping pill bottle he found in the defendant's trailer. This gives his defendant, Will Powers, an alibi that Phoenix conveniently hadn't mentioned until that moment. And Phoenix's surprises aren't just limited to physical evidence. In episode 2, after a long period of questioning April May, Phoenix calls a surprise witness to testify, the hotel's bellboy. And while both these surprises make for interesting drama, they're not allowed in US courts. Like, at all. Basically, what Phoenix is doing violates the concept of discovery. Discovery is a legal privilege that both sides, defense and prosecution, have, so that they can do research on relevant details before the trial begins to avoid surprises that could negatively impact their case. I mean, think about it. When Wright pulls out that pill bottle, Edgeworth, the case's prosecutor, has no idea that that thing exists. This gives Edgeworth zero time to think about the evidence and how it affects his case before he's expected to respond. In the case of the bellboy, when other lawyers don't know that a certain witness exists, they have no ability to prepare a cross-examination. Discovery applies to a lot of things. Physical evidence, like objects or documents, electronic evidence, like cell phone data and emails, and personal testimony collected in depositions. When Phoenix fails to turn over evidence or tell a prosecution about possible witnesses, he's not complying with this basic courtroom rule. As a result, he would be punished, getting, at best, all of his surprise evidence thrown out of the case, and at worst, sent to prison and held for contempt of court, costing him both time and money. It's unlikely that Phoenix would get such harsh punishment the first time he pulled one of these moves, but given how frequently he likes to introduce evidence without subjecting it to discovery, it wouldn't be too shocking for these omissions to land him in hot water with the judge.
Now on to the sudden introduction of evidence and witnesses. Every attorney in the series does this. What about the updated autopsy report that Edgeworth pulls out, for example? You can't say Phoenix is acting out of line when everyone else does it, and no one gets in trouble for it.
At this point, you may be saying to yourself, okay, MatPat, but you're using US court rules, and Ace Attorney is clearly not happening in an American court. To which I say, objection! That was awesome. No wonder it's become a meme. According to Janet Sue, Capcom localizer for Ace Attorney, canonically the series takes place in Los Angeles, an alternate universe version of Los Angeles, in fact, where Japanese and American culture intermingle to create a sweet love baby of a court system. By the way, I totally ship Jamaica OCP for life. But seriously, in addition to allowing seances for dead lawyers and animal witnesses, this legal love child shares more of its genes with the Japan side of the relationship, allowing for trials to take place at the same time as the investigations, and the judge to be in complete control of the proceedings. In Japan, the practice of trial by jury was suspended back in 1943 in exchange for the inquisitory system of criminal process, which means that the judge oversees the trial by himself, issues the verdict, and determines sentencing. Trials in Japan are also discontinuous. So, like we see in the game, there are hearings in court, followed by recesses for investigation, followed by more time in court, followed by more investigation, until the judge has heard enough to make a ruling. But most importantly of all, the Japanese system actually allows Phoenix to pull the dramatic surprises we talked about earlier. Because the judge runs everything and is seen to be smart enough to make courtroom decisions on his own, Japanese law doesn't have the same discovery phase that American law does. And as a result, all the stunts that Phoenix pulls in court are perfectly legal based on this weird Jamaica legal system.
And this is where MatPat shoots himself in the foot, making the last section completely useless. Also, it's not a straight-up hybrid of the two court systems either. Wanna know how? Because as MatPat just said, it's an alternate universe.
Also, it's Japanifornia. Jamaica, get that crap out of here.
But bribing small children is just the tip of the legal iceberg. In episode 2, he gets the bellboy let into the suspect's hotel room to steal a wiretap to use as evidence. There are two big problems here. Problem number one is that the wiretap that Phoenix steals is illegal. Under federal law, wiretaps are inadmissible in court unless they're placed under the order of a court. So whatever he finds on this thing couldn't be used in his case. But there's an even bigger issue at play, which is problem 2, Phoenix obtaining the evidence illegally. When Phoenix goes to the Gatewater Hotel, April May, the suspect isn't in her room, and the bellboy lets him in, at which point Phoenix discovers the wiretap. This is a big no-no, since hotel rooms are protected like private residences. The bellboy doesn't have the right to let anybody into that room without near certainty that a crime is being committed in that very instance. Phoenix would need a warrant issued by the court to get in, and as a working lawyer, he should know this. Without the warrants, everything that he finds is thrown out of the case. In the US, this is what's called the exclusionary rule. It's an extension of the US Constitution's 4th Amendment, which protects people against unreasonable search and seizure. In short, it says that nothing obtained through illegal means can be used as evidence in a criminal case. Well, of course, Phoenix Wright is unethical, but in respect, he's a lawyer.
Alternate universe. I need to repeat myself on how this is mainly a Japanese court system and not a direct copy of the American and Japanese legal system. And nowhere does it say that Phoenix stole the wiretap. He put it in the court record.
Now another point you made is how any evidence presented from the wiretap would have been thrown out. Yet again, you don't realize what evidence is accepted in this court of law. In the DL6 incident, Gregory Edgeworth consults with Mia and Maya's mother, Misty Faye, a spirit medium, to contact the spirit of a victim in this case, then use that spirit's testimony. That's right, they cross-examined a ghost. And this isn't the first time it happens either. In the third game, Trials and Tribulations, a spirit is once again cross-examined and exorcised in the middle of the courtroom. Of course, you'd know that had you played more than one game in the series.
Not only does Phoenix cross-examine a spirit, but he also cross-examines another parent in Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright, and an orca whale in Dual Destinies. This is a completely different court system than the one set in America or Japan.
So thus far, we've been talking about how Phoenix bends the rules to try to win, but he's not doing anything that could get him thrown in jail, right? Not so fast. At the beginning of episode 2, Phoenix arrives at the famed company law offices after hiding a legal peer has been murdered. Instead of calling the police immediately, he collects evidence for himself, like the note the victim appeared to be writing as she died, and a glass that was broken in the struggle. And the fact that he knows that she's still born implies that he touched her body. Not in a creepy way, I hope. There is no indication that Phoenix tells the police about this evidence when they arrive, and it's at this moment that Phoenix Wright goes from being a lawyer who bends the rules to a full-fledged criminal. The alteration, destruction, or concealment of physical evidence falls under the crime of obstruction of justice, and when he touches evidence, especially when he chooses to hide a receipt with the victim's sister's name on it, an object which directly implicates her in the murder. Whoa, murder? There's been murder done. An object which directly implicates her in the murder. He's tampering with evidence. Both obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence can carry jail time and fines. And since this is a first-degree murder case, we can be pretty sure that Phoenix would be punished severely. Sentences vary, but felony obstruction charges can come with sentences of up to 10 years in jail, and tampering with evidence on the federal level can get you as many as 20. Not only that, but once Phoenix is convicted of obstruction, he's also committed what's known as malfeasance, which is likely to get him disbarred from practicing law. You heard that right. In the second case we played through with Phoenix Wright in his first ever game, Mr. Wright's wrongdoing would get his lawyer license revoked, and in spite of all that, he gets away with it. Time and time again, Phoenix snoops around crime scenes, picking up things that suit his fancy, withholding evidence and information from investigators. This isn't just a lawyer who wants to win, he's a criminal who tries to bend the trial to fit his needs. Case closed.
Objection! The one who actually committed the crime was you. No alibi, no justice, no dream, no hope. It's time to pay for your crimes. Take this.
Whoa, Devin. Calm down. There's more to go over.
Well, sorry. I, had some Marvel flashbacks there.
I don't think you were paying much attention to the game when you were playing it, MatPat. Phoenix doesn't take the receipt, he jots down that he found it in the court record. In fact, Gumshoe goes ahead and takes it as evidence because Maya's name was written on it. Also, there's no way he took it because if he had every piece of evidence on him, he would have glass shards in his pocket and that would be a stupid thing to do. The game screen would update if he picked it up as well, but nope, it's still there on the floor. Also, Hottie McLawyer, you do not speak ill of the dead. She has a deep and meaningful relationship with Phoenix, but oh, you went nuts. You only played the first game.
Brooke, whoa, calm down. It was just a terrible joke.
Fine, but I'm not happy about it.
You showed on screen that Phoenix touched your shoulder. This just in, MatPat can't read. By referencing the fourth case, you already know how it plays out. How can you call Phoenix Wright a criminal when Manfred von Karma actually does the illegal shit? He controls the court, forges evidence, destroys evidence, runs the trials, and silences witnesses to keep a perfect record. Von Karma not only framed Edgeworth for murder, but led him to believe that he killed his own father, leaving him with guilt that lasted for 15 years, ending it off with one last murder as the statute of limitations of a previous case was about to run out so he could keep that perfect record.
The worst part about this video is that Phoenix has gotten disbarred. He has done illegal crap. But you wouldn't know this because you only played the first freaking game. In Apollo Justice, in Apollo's first case, he defends Phoenix. Near the end of the trial, he's given a piece of evidence and proceeds to use it in court, but it was forged. Phoenix forged the evidence, gave it to his daughter to give to Apollo, and Apollo used it to put the actual murderer away. If the court found out that the evidence was forged, Apollo would have been disbarred on his very first case. Let me restate that, if the court found out the evidence was faked, Phoenix would have been the cause of Apollo losing his badge. Canada, please save me. Wait, I'm American. They won't cover me.
Oh, it's a long one, but okay.
A few moments later.
So, you're the one blocking the door. Oh yes, I've been waiting for you two. Who the hell are you?
I'm the Phil Glenn, John Fox, the creator of everything wrong with Ruby.
That crapfest? What the hell are you doing here anyways? Why the hell would someone play John Fox?
Because with this Noctis computer, I can download my consciousness into the internet, force everyone to acknowledge me as the best. If they refuse, exit, destroy the computers with a flick of the wrist.
But your threat is saboteurism. And besides, John Fox would never do that.
But I'm not the real one, am I? I'm superior to him in every way. I will succeed, and no one will stop me.
So why are you wasting time talking to us?
Because the stairs knocked the passcode, and I can't open until I crack the code.
So we have time to stop you then.
Go ahead and try. You won't stop me.
Wanna bet?
Just up this then. This series showcases the absolute problems of Ruby. It can't be countered. And when I unlock this door, I will kill you two before I enter it.
So, 3 commentaries then. Yep. Very well, I'll go first, then you handle the second one, then go up on the final one. Sounds like a plan. Good, because we need to stop this man at all costs. Indeed.
What was that cluster truck of an intro skit? There's little to nothing telling me, a new viewer, what is going on. I get when you have storylines, not everyone's going to know what is going on at all times because people come in at different points. But when you start off in a weird attempt at accents, and there is no context to what's going on besides it's in a hospital in Canada, you have to be conscious of new people finding your stuff and giving them something to chew on. From watching all 3 parts, you got Anubis, his dark other half or something, the creator of the material, and a 4th guy. If you want to fix this, I'd advise when you have characters talk to each other, you address them by name, like this very bare bones example. Hey Bakugo, who's that guy? I don't know, Anubis. It is I, John Fox! Something to that extent so your viewers can follow along. I'm far from dumb though. With John's character, you keep changing the voice, then just give up. If you can't hold a certain voice, either practice the heck out of it, do a voice you can do consistently, drop doing a voice entirely, ask someone who is more well versed in voices to cameo for you, or change your voice in audio editing software like Audacity. There's a multitude of settings to help you adjust the pitch and whatnot. But if you're going to act in voiceover to begin with, can you make sure to take a Ritalin first or something? Maybe some coffee? Mountain Dew, maybe? You don't emote much, and man, you slur your words together. Enunciate. If you cannot be heard, your arguments are already at a disadvantage. And now the editing. Does your editor have no control over consistent scaling? Now, unless it's your intention, then it's just something I don't like, and I'll leave it at that. But if it wasn't intentional, and this distortion is because you don't know how to properly scale in your editor, then I recommend looking up tutorials because it makes your video look way less clean. And I'm bringing this up now because this is an issue that persists through all 3 videos, and the inner editor in me is screaming into a pillow at this. Also, while your keyframing is okay, the whole video feels kinda out of sync. There are moments I liked, like with the everything wrong thumbnails popping up. Wait, that was the only thing I really liked in regards to the editing here. Anyway, we'd be here all day if I pointed out every little error, so let's move on before my inner editor explodes.
So yeah, this is John Fox. He made a rip-off of CinemaSins Everything Wrong with series, but used Ruby instead of movies. Now before anyone starts, we are aware that these videos are old. But given how this score has barely shown into improvement since this point, we think it's good enough material to reap into. Even in 2017. Now that we got that out of the way, let's begin.
So you are capable of zooming in without distorting the image. Then there is no excuse. What the frick was that intro? You are killing me! Wait.
You couldn't even do this part right, could you? Let's dissect the problems with this perverty intro, shall we? First off, the audio from the material is not synced up properly. In a CinemaSins video, the audio is played during the scene where the source material's title is used and after the with text. Jesus Christ, that is basic and you couldn't even do that right. Second of all, you don't even focus on the title for the whole intro bit. It just shows the text and then plays the rest of the intro. You couldn't have taken a screenshot while having the audio play or something? I know it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but when you can't even do the simplest thing in a CinemaSins parody, what does that say about the rest of the video?
Finally, on to the actual first points of the video, and oh my goodness, these are such minuscule nitpicks that don't overall affect the quality of the video. These are super small points that don't deserve this much time dedicated to them. It's like I made an Epic Rap Battles of History parody and then got everything down to a T, but then my text on screen was just a smidge to the left. Then I'd just be a fidget that doesn't understand the rule of thirds.
Narration.
Wait, that's it? Not even gonna say why it's bad? Okay. Yeah, AnnabethRide has tried to introduce the world to the audience and also explain the manpower that our characters utilize throughout the series. They're worse than Hitler. Oh, but CinemaSins says narration is seen as bad too. Yeah, and it's just as stupid when they bring it up. Your point?
Now you're in my court. If you took 2 seconds to think about why this would actually be an issue, suddenly it makes a lot of sense. Show, don't tell. Narration could be seen as a lazy way out when it comes to building a world when opening up in a movie or a show like RWBY, because you should be able to convey what you need to get across to the audience without blatantly dumping the audience with loads of exposition. Yeah, it's more work and harder to get right, but by letting the movie tell you things through setting, characters, character action, etc., it has the possibility of not only being more immersive, but also help the pacing of a movie. It also treats audiences like thinking people instead of possibly talking condescendingly to them, looking at you, lady in the water.
I said, put your hands in the air, now! This guy's a terrible thief.
Yeah, and Ruby is ruining our ears by having the music be loud enough for everyone else to hear. See? I can make substanceless complaints too. Doesn't make it okay.
I'm gonna be playing a lot of devil's advocate in this commentary, aren't I? Alrighty, not so insignificant when you think about his job. He's hired Muscle to make sure Torchwick can get the dust and use force when necessary. If he's bad at his job, then that throws a wrench into the villain's plans. There's also the fact that Ruby relies on tropes and cliches, and the first season is very egregious for doing this. It's more often played straight with nothing new to keep it fresh. And the original CinemaSins, guess what gets sinned a lot? Tropes and cliches. Unlike the real Bakugo, you don't seem to have a brain.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
Jeez, killing me off every second? What's wrong with you? Well, that's because you keep making stupid points about every minor thing every few seconds.
Oh, so like you then. You're missing the point of CinemaSins. It's about nitpicking. You know, little nagging things can hamper an experience, right? There might not be a lot of major flaws, but there are so many little things that you can't just let slide that can taint an overall experience. Example, the editing in Captain America Civil War. Frequently, when the scene changed to a new location, it flashed up big white text of said location, and to me, it was super jarring. Now, it didn't ruin my overall experience of the film, but if it had more little niggles like that, it would dampen the quality of the film. Basically, ants. 1 or 2 more are a problem, but get a whole nest, and I'm gonna need more bug spray.
Didn't you do that earlier with the introduction? Yeah, but that doesn't disprove my point though that he's also nitpicking. Just means I'm a hypocrite. Boo-hoo.
Then maybe stop? Oh my god, acknowledging the problem doesn't make it go away. If this is amounting to little more than nitpicks, then what is the hacking point, man? Give me something more concrete. Give me a point to sink my teeth into. Stop with the double standards, you bitch!
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
I just want to be a normal girl with normal knees.
Main character wanted to be normal cliche.
You do realise that cliches became cliches because it was good enough to be copied, right? So, how is this bad? Because it's not executed well? Oh, wait, it's bad because it's overdone, that's it? Wow, what a weak and flat complaint to make.
You're basically doing this commentary for me. No, please. Keep going. You certainly don't say how this cliche was done well. Yes, cliches on their own aren't bad, but in this case, it's not utilized well because the little plot thread just kinda stops. The most it gets out of this cliche is Weiss not liking Ruby being the leader. Yes, he should be giving more of a reason for stating the cliche, but what you're doing is shoving words down his throat. Do I need to get the police on the phone again?
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
Where am I supposed to find another nice, quirky girl to talk to?
There she is.
And speaking of comedic scenes, here's another one that you take seriously.
Or, you know, well, as hard to tell as it is, he did have an upward inflection in his voice to indicate that this was more of a joke, and that this is a different issue entirely, because while the original Cinema Sins has jokes too, they're tied in with the legitimate points like 98% of the time. And assuming I am correct, because the Lord knows I could very well be wrong, this means you took his joke seriously. Great job.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
I got my hands on some fake transcripts, and I lied.
Beacon's screening process probably needs a reworking.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. I would have never knew that without your help. Also, remember this for the next scene I'm about to play.
Yeah, he's stating the obvious, but that doesn't debunk his point. Beacon is a school for training the best. It obviously needs high standards, and that's why Jean had to fake his transcripts. So he could get in. What Fox did it is the problem.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
Nobody saw this coming.
Nobody saw this coming. You'll see the money's...
Nope, no personified memes for you. At least if you're going to do a meme, do it right, you plebeian. Improper memeage is a major offense in at least 5 countries. Post-Brooke coming at you with something I just realized while editing. It occurred to me that because of the please stand by screen cutting yourself off, you were potentially doing this really bad on purpose. But then what's my issue? My issue is go big or go home. Nothing's worse than mediocre bad. There's a reason so bad it's good as a term exists. If you're trying to be bad on purpose, why not play it up? Go crazy with keyframing or effects because right now you're boring me to tears.
In the first 5 seconds, we were met with obnoxiously loud music. Glad to see that in the year gap between the video my dark side covered and this, you have learned jack shit about editing, or syncing the audio correctly.
Okay, am I losing my hearing or is Akubis here pulling something out of his butt? You don't make a note of adjusting the audio to make it more bearable in text or speaking, so... I went and checked the original video to see what you were talking about, and man, your wording is off. Did you mean that the music drowns out the sound effects? Cause if so, yeah, you aren't wrong, but you could say the volume of the music is obnoxiously loud, leading me to think that you just mean the volume, period. Revise, revise, revise.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
I always kick my semesters off with a yang.
God damn it, Barb!
Oh my god, Yang made a pun. I better seen it. Also, random media clip in the CinemaSins ripoff. What, too lazy to make your own reaction so you had to show someone else's clip? Come on. Well, hey, it's a good thing you don't send another pun in this.
Utter satisfaction.
Oh, come on. How is a pun a sin?
Puns can be considered a lower form of comedy, and since his sins every time there's a pun, it's not hard to assume that he wants better jokes than just puns. It's also an inside joke with Rooster Teeth, and if Ruby wants to be taken seriously, it should probably leave out all inside jokes. Answered it quite easily, I may add. Think.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
Not if I have anything to say about it. You clearly have control of the barrier for now. So as long as I keep blasting, you have to stand still. And the minute you slip up, it's over.
Wait, continuity error! The videos are only supposed to go away when you commentate on the video. It shouldn't just go when you haven't gotten to it yet. Jesus Christ on a bicycle, please keep things consistent!
Oh no, you don't. Eyes of heaven! This isn't over. I can still reach the door. Oh no, you shit! I won. Don't you think you've won yet, you clone? David, we agreed we'd work together to stop this, right? That's exactly what we'll do. I may be out of power, but you're not, David. And let's work together to stop him. Right. Fine, let's end this.
So a Chaco plus Bakugo equals Todoroki? I mean, you got the fire part down, but this fusion doesn't make any sense. Anti-gravity doesn't just turn into ice? Unless this isn't a fusion, then nothing was conveyed well at all and let's just move on.
Welcome to part 3. If you haven't seen the previous parts, well, you might want to go watch them first in order to understand this crapfest. Now let's end this with Everything Wrong with Ruby, Volume 3.
I've seen the previous 2 parts, trust me, this doesn't make things any clearer.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
Thanks to our clever little friend.
This screen implies that she's getting inside information from Ironwood, but how or why would he have access to the randomization process for the tournament?
Except, she wasn't getting the information from Ironwood directly. She hacked into Ironwood's scroll and got the stuff inside. Well, she did before back in Volume 2 during the dance episode. And as for the tournament matchups, well, do you folks recall the scene in Volume 2 where Cinder went to that communications building? Well, it was explained that she injected a bug into said building, and that's how she was able to alter the matchups. The wording's a little vague, but clever little friend means the virus that she put into the mainframe. That's it. Especially since the queen piece on the computer back in Volume 2 matches the one on Cinder's screen in this episode.
You see, I would give this a pass if it actually addressed his point at all. Fox was saying that Cinder's screen implies that the information regarding the matchups was from Ironwood when he actually wasn't in charge of that. He was in charge of security. Fox doesn't actually address any of the words Cinder says at all. He's strictly looking at the screen and oh look! There's Ironwood's face!
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
If Adam's goal was to destroy, why did he only cut Yang's arm off instead of, say, cut her in half?
Yang's main weapon, that she takes great pride in, mind you, is her gauntlets, which are attached to her arms. Ergo, losing one of her arms would destroy Yang.
But that's emotionally destroy. Adam's goal was to literally tear everything and everyone down. Letting Yang live does not follow his goal. If he didn't want her in the way at all, it would have been much easier to just kill her so she has no chance of coming back. But he didn't because Rooster Teeth didn't want to get rid of one of their main characters so soon. He was even willing to decapitate Blake without hesitation. Everything in his character screams that he would have killed her, but then didn't.
Also, what happened to aura and semblance? Yang's aura should have protected her. At the very least, her semblance should have kicked in before the permanent damage was done.
Oh boy, we got a gold mine here, don't we? 1. Yang had been fighting Grim and other enemies for a while prior to this scene, so she and Vexen and her aura would be weakened as a result of said fighting. It's also why she basically lost to Neo back in Volume 2. 2. Adam's semblance allows him to absorb and or block energy and redirect it at his opponents with one powerful blow. In fact, we saw that not only in the Black trailer, but earlier on when Blake was trying to attack Adam, and as shown with Adam's physique, he was barely exhausted from the fighting with Blake, so his aura and semblance would be stronger than Yang's at that point, meaning that on top of the absorbed bullets from Blake's gun, Adam could easily cut through the rest of Yang's aura and arm. Finally, 3. Much like Adam, her semblance only works if she hits an opponent. She didn't. Not even close. Even going frame by frame, there was no chance for Yang to hit him the moment he got into that stand. In fact, had Adam done nothing, she would have continued charging forward and crashed into a wall most likely. Fact is, unless Yang hits her opponent, her semblance is useless in battle, which in this case, it was.
Except this isn't how Yang's semblance works at all, dude. Her semblance grows more powerful when she is beaten down and when she gets angry, not when she hits enemies. It does not matter that she did not manage to land a hit on Adam. The thing is, she probably did have close to enough power to go toe-to-toe with Adam if he wasn't more precise with his movements and actions, and Yang being so reckless. Her passing out also prevents her from reaching full power, and Yang passed out before she could, probably from the shock or pain from getting her arm chopped off.
You've added 10,000 views to this one yourself, Izuku.
2 hours later.
I'm done.
Wow, I don't feel a thing.
Of course not. He was in your mind after all.
Oh, okay.
And this is just perfectly fine to you? Acting like this is just a walk in the park? Because that's not how someone would logically react to something happening in their brain. Also, who is this 4, 5, 5th person? You say later that it's a doctor, but again with the lack of conveyance.
No, it's over. It's finally over.
So I take it you know what happened to Damon? Yeah, I had a feeling he would disappear. He was originally a personified memory after all, so... can you calm the funeral a bit? I'm trying to relax. So, what happened? I thought you reverted back to a memory. Did you forget I absorbed your former dark side? Okay then. Look, this shit has gone on for far too long, so can we just wrap this up?
Yeah, you guys can go home now.
Thanks, Doctor. So, how's it end this commentary? The only way you can end any Ruby commentary. Hey, Sally, Susan, Fawn.
Later.
What? No! What did I say about lousy mimage? And with that, Buster Cluck, it's time for final...
Well, look, hold on. At least now I can sit back and wrap.
Addison! What are you doing here? I thought you had better standards than that! Look, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. No, you don't get JoJo! But there's a few issues I have with this intro. Now this first point, you can take it or leave it as it chalks up to personal preference, but the pacing for this intro, for lack of a better term, is dead. It starts off okay, but then the names and pictures start to linger on screen for too long, and with the slow keyframing, it doesn't sit well with me. It felt longer than the 22 seconds it actually was. And then there's this bit right here. The footage seemingly stops, further killing the pacing. Now it's only because of the thumbnail getting in the way, but it literally stops your video right in its tracks. If you want to use gameplay footage, be mindful when you have other bits covering the screen. It could do more harm than good. The next thing I want to bring up is that crazy noisy bizarre town bit at the end. You tried to recreate the intro of that JoJo OP, but not only does it feel like it's slapped onto the very end and doesn't flow well with the rest of your intro, this reeks of laziness. Presentation is everything. If you want to use crazy noisy bizarre town and not try to pay homage / reference to the OP, I would have passed it off as a meh intro and left it at that, but you tried to reference it. Not only could you have done way better, the keyframing was too slow to match with the original OP. Now I realize this was for syncing with the music that was playing, but it could have been done way better. There's something bothering me about the audio you used. Did you slow it down? Here, let me show you what I mean here at the end of both intros. Ozzy didn't use the EDM version of the OP either. So what's the deal with this? Also the colored bit with them going across the screen? That's not even the right part of the song. It's this part. And it would be super easy to recreate that portion. The beginning of the song could be pictures of Axel and Gangaroo among other people involved. Then throw in avatar pictures flying across the screen in time with the music and add a blur effect to the pictures while having normal silhouette on top on a separate track. Does it seem like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill? I won't deny the possibility, but if you want to reference something, it shouldn't be done half-heartedly as it makes you look unwilling to go the extra mile. Okay, that's one tangent down. Pray that I don't have any more.
So meet Blaze of Arcana, our commentator previously known as Skeleton Nathan, who used to make commentaries that were not really good.
Okay, just gotta get this out of the way now. Your volume is way too quiet compared to the music. It's very close to drowning you out, and you can easily adjust the volume in your music track in your editor. Seriously, you have like, what, Sony Vegas or something? I know it can be a stubborn son of a gun, but not that stubborn.
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
I decided to give you the Dick Sponge treatment and change your avatar. But don't worry, you'll love him. After all, he's in hashtag BringBackFly 2017, so you should be fine.
You're doing the same joke twice in a row? I mean, I guess you have every right to, but since your last commentary was the one on Dick Sponge and you do the same thing there, it starts to lose some of the effectiveness and humor value. If anything, you just created more work for yourself, and that extra time could have been spent tightening up your presentation. And I know running jokes are a thing, but the way it comes off here, it feels like it's rehashing a joke just for the sake of rehashing a joke. Though to be fair, I don't necessarily blame you. Real life wrestlers as avatars? Pfft, trashed here.
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
Hey, quick question. Why the frick does this pick of Rainbow Dash have a white background? Blaze, please, I'm sure you can find more PNGs in Rainbow Dash that give you a transparent background. I'm sure I don't need to explain to you how Google Images work.
Alright, Azelf, you're not wrong and I'm gonna let you finish, but I need to hit Obscurian for a second. Bro, what's with this intro? The pacing is too slow and the keyframing is janky, leading to a lack of interest. There's no flow to this whatsoever. The pictures and the keyframing are not in time with the music, and the text moving in the manner it does takes away from the other visuals. Humans jump to text before looking at pictures because we want to constantly absorb information. Be mindful of text and its placement.
Okay, I'm going to use a help building a new tree named after me. If this tree is a bird, you'll spoil it.
Okay, why? Why this white background? Why these subtitles? Great job of being confused in the first 5 seconds. Why is this white background here? Out of the huge library of moving backgrounds you have, Doodle, you pretty much use a white background.
First off, great job cutting off Joshua there, buddy. Yes, it really might not have mattered since you are talking about presentations, but it just seems jarring that you decided to cut off again, and to be honest, it's kind of rude. I advise you to respect your target more and let them finish their statement. Second, you speak as though never about the music, and you're being a hypocrite since you also have a lack of background music in your original video, and then decide to look over the video and even re-upload the video with the music, because re-uploading to fix the stage is so hard, right guys? But yet here you're complaining about it in this video. Not to mention, let's have the music either too quiet or too loud, most people wouldn't really care about it. And third, the white background is clearly an obvious token hashtag white border hat. And while yes, I can admit that word for those who didn't see the most special on the tree, which we also totally want by the way, it does make sense because one of the things you and the others in the tree love to bring up was white border hat. I mean, I can understand what Josh was doing earlier. As white borders matter in mind, I should have been used to calling Josh was slapping on white borders and having in things like black square boys in them, rather than just using whatever he used to make the white borders as a primary editing software and just having the white background. But this is Doodle, and if I know Doodle, it actually knows how to do backgrounds properly. Also, you have to explain me how YouTube videos night comedy was still visually entertaining to watch thanks to the effects he added in, while he himself used a white background. Oh, don't worry, I'll wait.
Alright, and bringing up YouTube Dude's Ninth Commentary does what exactly? Are you trying to bring in more hypocrisy? Dude, you already called him out for him bringing up a lack of background music when he did not have it too. But even then, he's not wrong in asking about it because Doodle normally has background music in her commentaries, so this particular call-up not having any music is something you could raise a small eyebrow at. Now, is it the biggest problem in the world? Nah, not really. But you can't just dismiss Obscurian because her hypocrisy. He can complain about something that he still sees as a problem, even if he's doing that problem himself.
Also, the subtitles could maybe work, however there's a closed caption feature with YouTube. Why not just use that feature instead? Or, you know, Joshua could just learn that to enunciate his words correctly instead of mumbling like a baby.
While yes, using a closed caption in Doodle's case might be better, the way it was edited and based off the description, this video was intended to be on Joshua's channel. Yes, but Joshua can't view YouTube via the iPad. Also, Joshua has stated before that he's going as clear as he can. Blaze, you and I both know that he has a speech impediment. How about you said that he's giving his all with it, and in the end, this is the best option.
Even despite that Joshua can't do closed captions on the iPad, you could have also brought up how the subtitles on screen that are closed captions make sure that everyone sees them aside from the people using the video as background noise. Closed captions, as far as I'm aware, do not play on mobile, so this is the best solution for everyone. You're not wrong, Azelf, but your point could have been much better.
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
Admittedly, less than satisfactory commentary.
Blaze! What are you doing? You're being fascism! We can't lose you, man, group again!
Azelf, what is this editing? Axel pops in before you start speaking and then goes away before you're done. I know you can keyframe, and if it was keyframed in, it wouldn't be so jarring. I know you wanted to get this out, but you can't afford to be sloppy. You don't want to stain your avatar. Can you even stain a robot?
I dislike is people calling me a liar when I didn't lie in the first place. Here's an idea. Don't do what I say is a lie. If you want to stay on long, say that they're calling me a liar. At least it won't be too aggravating for me.
Oh hey, that's me doing your parts.
Okay, well, let me explain the situation clearly here, since you seem to not realize what Slayer was doing. Yeah, that was pretty much
I'm sorry, but I'll stop you right here because you already made a dumb point in the introduction to it. Slayer made a whiny, mocking like your cousin Joshua, then he follows this with, and I quote, okay, but in all seriousness, your apology is a crock of shit. Yeah, it was totally a joke. In the same way as Dick Sponge on his soapbox to say a speech about slice of life in a serious tone was a joke.
Why bring up Dick Sponge? It was completely superfluous, and I do get bringing in examples, but you don't even need examples here. You proved Obscurian wrong.
If you want to know why it's that, it's because you have apologized so many times throughout the past few years that it's not even funny. Not to mention, you also wouldn't change your ways for the better due to how insincere you are.
You say, as you're commentating on a video where Joshua has a background and subtitles, which were issues people had with his videos at the beginning of the Joshua tree. Yeah, bravo, he hasn't changed for the better at all.
Hey, you know what's funny? Yeah, you say he improved in some things, and I can bring up a list of things he hasn't improved in. Yeah, roll that list, please.
Alright, let's go down the list. The point about his jokes can't be about with his commentary on Realm Wars, as it was up to the usual joke commentary formula. All his commentaries he does now is edited decently and keep them, which while it is not so many seconds, it does get the job done. He has seemed to calm down to criticism, as I did point my own quickie on him, where the commentary he started there was only 2 comments long, implying that both me and him were able to discuss the quickie without having to overreact to it. Examples please, because he also has people now checking the script. In fact, this call with Doodle should be a sign of that. Examples please, and hypocrite again, because I can put your opening, which is very quiet compared to the hearing launching the audience with your intro came on, which is something Joshua never does in any of the commentaries from what I have seen. Hey Blaze, just have an appointment for you to see someone. We have Quarter Guy, Raven, and even Fyro. I sure can tell purity and sanity that makes you rake ears.
Let's go down the list of points that you make too, because believe it or not, there are issues. Azelf, just because Joshua did a joke commentary that followed the formula does not mean it was timed well joke-wise or that the humor hit its mark at all. Following a formula doesn't equal success. Azelf, just because that he has an editor doesn't mean he knows how to use it properly. Just saying he has an editor that gets the job done doesn't mean jack squat. He also has to know how to use it. In regards to the criticism comment chain, where's this proof? Oh wait, I have it because you couldn't be bothered to show it even when you show other screenshots in this commentary. Other than that, Azelf, you cover the rest of his points fine.
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
That's another thing. I at least tried to show some proof. You, on the other hand, don't try to prove me wrong by doing your own research.
Alright, but where's your proof? Yeah, whoever even edited this probably doodle. There's this little thing called adding in one clip to help your arguments. And this is really, really bad for people who haven't seen Joshua's original video. And you're the presenter here, so it's your job to back up your claim with evidence. You know,
Alright, how about you show it instead? I mean, you are the presenter, so you can show off pictures, footage, and more in order to show how Slayer didn't show proof in order to be better than those two. I mean, I'm sure there's also others who have come to this video that didn't know about the Joshua Tree. Also, Duotones did put a link to Slayer's video down in the description for people to see. Granted, thanks to Slayer, it's unavailable, but the evidence was there. You just needed to look for once.
No one wants the burden of proof. Okay! Time for me to take responsibility because I'm stuck with a trash tier Maverick Hunter and a robot kangaroo that don't want to do any work!
That's quite hypocritical of you telling Spirit to do her research, yet you don't do any research or provide any evidence whatsoever. Way to go to contradict yourself.
Also, stop using the hypocrisy card. It expired 2 interjections ago.
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
A lot of his commentaries came out to leave this website. Yeah, I've seen his commentaries.
Yeah, but where's your proof that he uses that tactic? Because not everyone has seen Slayer's content before. And just saying that you've seen his content before doesn't mean anything because you don't show clips or proof.
How about you show off the princess? I'm sure it's not hard to look up Slayer. Find something like his fifth commentary. See his file box where he tells someone to leave the Anna, and maybe show that part in there, or at least leave the video in the description. You know, for someone who wants to show proof, you're barely showing at all.
I could say the same for you, Missy, because there was proof in Doodle and Joshua's original video.
And I'll end off the video there because I honestly have nothing more to say. Final verdict. Joshua, the only advice I can give to you is to just leave the CC. Everybody is sick to death of your shitty videos, and judging from this video, it just goes to show that you haven't changed one bit from the past 5 to 6 years.
There! Evidence! Was that so hard?
Let's show those dense motherfuckers some logic.
need I bring up the multiple responses he made to people who made comms on him, including me?
Can I remind you of the burn that took place on that very tweet by Eurotones?
Need I bring up the comment chains he's made arguing with people?
Can I remind you of the comment chains now where most of them are pretty short unless your name is Dick Sponge Entertainment when he commented on the commentary on the MLP list?
Need I bring up his stop arguing with me video?
Okay, instead of just dragging Doodle's video in here, you can bring up in more detail how, because of that, Joshua has changed his overreacting ways by showing evidence of his newer content. You say he has, but then also lack the evidence, leading for your audience and me to do the extra legwork to see if your claim has credit. Obscurian is trying to drag Joshua through the mud with outdated behavior, and you don't try to combat this much. Just saying Joshua doesn't. Your word alone isn't enough. And then you go and bring up Dick Sponge again for no reason. Adself, you taken. Calm that hate boner.
We've had jokes that go over people's heads, and we've had opinions misconstrued. Such as Reaper. After Reaper with the side assault, everyone thought I legitimately hated Reaper and his character, which I don't. He's fun to play, and even in-universe, everyone mocks his lousy attitude, making it fun.
Remember this for later. Let's just say the gun has been loaded.
But let me be clear with this one. I do not like Diva. I do not like her character. I don't like her kit. I just don't like Diva. We're gonna change it up a bit with this most basic of basic characters, so rev up your hate-filled "you're wrong because my opinion differs" comments, while I rev up the poorly timed bias and hate-filled comedy.
At least you admit you're a big joke and shouldn't be taken seriously.
In this world of talking monkeys and zombie-creating psycho bitches, there is one thing that I cannot wrap my head around. One thing that is just too fantasy, too unreal, so much so that it just sticks out far from the others. And that'd be Diva. As Diva, you're the dame of the game to tank and spank and somehow fly under the radar of just what makes a bad female character. I mean, come on. Obviously, there's fan service and controversy in Overwatch, so why does Diva get a pass? She's easily the most obnoxious fat bait fan service in the game. I mean, really? Young, bait. Skin tight suit, bait. Kawaii, ugu voice, bait. Unironically says things like LOL, winky face, GG, and AFK. Bait and stupid.
Alright, let's take these points one at a time.
Young, bait.
She's young. So what exactly? Lucio and Tracer are both 26. Pretty young compared to the rest of the cast. Are you calling them bait too? She's not even underage. If she was, I could see your problem, but she's 19, a perfectly legal adult in her country and ours.
Skin tight suit, bait.
Cause oh yeah, she is totally wearing that to be sexy and not because she freaking pilots a mech suit that can go fast enough to fly. Look what actual race car drivers and actual pilots wear.
Kawaii ugu voice, bait.
So wait, This universe has a French assassin with her chest basketballs almost dribbling out of her mad cleavage, and you're calling a kawaii voice bait? Look, you cannot be into kawaii stuff, that's your preference, but this is a little ridiculous.
Also, kawaii is Japanese, and diva is Korean. Get good.
Unironically says things like LOL, winky face, GG, and AFK. Bait and stupid.
How's that bullet doing in your foot, Scott? Because remember what you said about Reaper in the beginning of the video? The exact same thing can be applied to Diva.
You say in the beginning that you like this about Reaper, the satire and poking at the dark, edgy side of the internet. Well, Diva is this universe's satire of gamers and the gaming community. So what makes it okay with Reaper, but not with Diva? This salt is starting to taste a little bit too real.
What Blizzard went for with Overwatch is a near-future fantasy sci-fi world, and in this world, as a sort of parody or even prediction of our own, gamer culture leaked into pop culture and became one of the main sports and pastimes. If this is living hell for you, why do you play online video games again?
Blizzard literally said, hey, what if we had a cute sexy girl that also played video games, since the people who waifu our characters just want a cute Asian video game playing girlfriend, but in real life?
This statement bothers me a lot. Not only are you claiming all Blizzard cares about is pandering to people who waifu their characters, but you also call Diva nothing but sex appeal and waifu bait. This game took huge strides in representation for all kinds of ethnicities, 40% of it being good, strong female characters, and you're just gonna say that all they care about is sex appeal?
The voice actress for Diva herself would disagree with you, because she has been quoted saying, in terms of representation of Asian American characters in video games, particularly women, they might be over-sexualized. And I don't know if I'm being too candid here, I feel like Diva's more of a real person. She happens to have some sex appeal, but that's not why she's in the game. She's not there to be an exotic lotus. I think the voice actress has a little bit more weight when it comes to Diva's character. What am I saying? I'm a random heck on the internet.
But fine. You know, let's actually dive into the lore a little bit, shall we? Diva's lore is that she used to be a pro-female gamer at the young age of 16. That's fine. You know, it's pretty unheard of, but that's fine. She then went on to win a StarCraft 2 tournament, and that's where we kind of depart from any chance of reality that we had. I mean, because, come on now, how often has a 16-year-old female won a gaming tournament? But whatever.
I know you're not wrong, but you wanna know why that is? It's because the gaming scene is still very toxic to women. Just earlier this year, we had a young Korean woman at the age of 17 be accused of cheating by 2 esport players and had to prove she wasn't. She even wore a mask to hide her identity when proving her skill because she didn't want to be harassed any more than she already had been. Maybe we'd see more women playing and winning if their skill wasn't called into question.
Calling skill into question like you just did, good sir. But whatever, guys. It's not like there's a real-life woman named Scarlett Hostin who had won first place in 7 StarCraft 2 tournaments before she was 20 years old.
Let's keep it going. Omnics decided to fuck shit up and even started messing with the mecha units. Humans decided they needed human pilots for the machines to not get sexually harassed by Omnic interference. And so they drafted gamers, because those skills totally translate, right? Especially because an RTS would transfer to essentially an FPS, right? Fine. She could have had training, whatever.
Hun, what does RTS stand for?
Real-time strategy?
And what do you do on the battlefield?
Make quick decisions, take in information about your enemy, and... strategize on how to best take them down.
This is how Diva was able to translate her skills over to the battlefield. Sure, the controls are different, but like real-time strategy games like StarCraft, it still requires you to be on your toes like on the battlefield. In Universe, Diva would have to keep track of a lot of things and multitask just like in StarCraft.
You may be just pressing left click, right click, E, and shift, but Diva is having to control and keep track of a lot of things in that mech. So yes, the skills of taking in information with blinding speed, planning tactics accordingly, and hand-eye coordination out the wazoo do translate.
So Diva, of course, excels, and of course, streams it, and of course, everyone loves her, and she gains a fantastic following, and literally nothing bad happens to her ever, minus the whole Omnic attack that fucked everybody up.
Yeah, it's not like she has to risk her life and limb to defend her country from basically doomsday. She sees it as a game because that's what she knows best. She's still risking her freaking life.
This is what I dislike about her character. Everyone loves her. Nobody has an issue with her. Hell, the worst dialogue exchange she has is Widow saying it's no place for children, which isn't even that bad.
Nobody in Universe has anything bad to say about Mei, Tracer, or Lucio. Lucio is the best example here. He's a star, happy all the time, and everyone loves him. So why don't you have a problem with him, good sir? He did have bad stuff happen to his hometown that he helped solve, but it could easily be argued that your entire country being threatened by a massive Omnic is way worse.
Yeah, Lucio has some negative interactions with Symmetra, but the point still stands. Let's go over May a bit more. Aside from her being completely precious in some of her voice lines, there are no negative interactions with any other heroes aside from Junkrat. Her backstory isn't all that bad compared to Diva's either. Sure, she was the only surviving member of her expedition, but that's not as bad as having your entire country be under threat and having to defend it.
And Tracer has no negative exchanges either, except a not so bad one with Widowmaker. Just like Diva. I think somebody is just on a hipster kick and being all, everyone likes her, so I'm not going to.
At least she didn't utter the dreaded phrase, Mary Sue.
Whew. I'm getting bad flashbacks to all the Force Awakens haters.
Oh, don't get me started on freaking—
Everyone is like, wow, Diva, you're awesome, and I love you, please love me. To which, of course, she'll constantly say things like, I still love you, and of course, love Diva. A phrase so attention-whorish it is smart enough to have both in-universe stream watchers and actual Overwatch players put their greasy little hands to the screen and whisper, I do love Diva. As they throw money at the hot chick streaming, thinking it'll buy them a one-way ticket into becoming a Shimada so they can control their dragon into her pink mecha unit. Metaphors!
The Love Diva thing. Are you sure that's in the context of being an attention whore? Are you absolutely 100% and I'd bet my life on it sure? Because if you look up the voice line on the wiki, there's a comma there, and if my English knowledge is correct, this is referring to it being a sign-off of sorts, like you'd end a letter or sending something for a fan. Like she does. So no, she's not telling everyone to love her.
Seriously, it's love, comma, Diva. Like she is saying with love, from Diva. It's not that hard to gather. And geez guys, I don't know about you, but that rant about girl streamers sounded a little personal, like you might have had experience with this or something. More on that later.
So gameplay, right. Diva's so fucking simple. Like, Lucio is simple, but Diva is so fucking simple.
The game itself would beg to differ on that.
And boring. Her normal fire is just that. Normal gunfire. Her mech's turrets cover a shotgun-esque area and you never have to reload because reloading is hard and actually makes you think about holding the fire key down, and pro girl gamers can't be bothered with that biz nasty. It's not like she'd have to micromanage a million fucking things to be good at StarCraft, but alright.
My god, you could fill an ocean with that unnecessary amount of salt. Jeez. I know that is the point of this series of videos, but again, it sounds a little too real. Anyway, to his points.
Is pressing R to reload early when the game reloads when you run out of ammunition anyway really that big of a skill you need to master when playing Overwatch? Not like it takes much to reach over and press that little button with your index finger.
That being said, the lack of reloading is necessary. Her basic gunfire is one of the weakest in the game. Its range is garbage and the damage is subpar compared to other close-range attacks, so the unlimited ammo with no reloads is a balancing thing. Something a pro gamer would know about. Also, you cannot just hold fire all the time, because while Diva is firing, it greatly inhibits her movement. Another balancing thing.
The problem here is that you are blending with us as players have to do and what Diva would have to do in order to pilot her mech. Diva is controlling each of the mech's arms separately, has to also move the mech with these controls, and has separate actions to activate her ultimate and her defense matrix. She has to keep track of all that and what is going on when she is in combat. That is way more complicated than you're making it out to be. In Universe, it's a lot more to focus on and multitask with, and also more stress-inducing than you hitting Q and running away.
Also another jab at girl gamers, seriously. To cover the he's just joking base, it's still a bit much. We've established earlier that the community is hostile enough even though females are just as capable as males at gaming. This is a recurring trend with this video, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
We're playing Jesus! The cooldown is fairly long, so be careful as the boost can bring you back on the stage if you get knocked off, so plan against the enemy team.
For someone who's supposed to be
so fucking simple,
there does seem to be some strategy involved. Fancy that! Well, that's 2 foot injuries and we're only a little over halfway through. I hope he has good insurance.
And then we have the most BS ability in the game. Her defense matrix. This thing is a giant fucking cone.
Diva's defense matrix. Reinhardt's shield. Giant is a massive overstatement. It's just barely big enough to cover the top part of her mech.
That literally deletes every projectile in the game.
Stop butchering the word literally! It has a family like everyone else!
Do it one more time, and I will literally get my girlfriend to beat you up because she knows Taekwondo, and I will cheer supportively from the sidelines.
The dumbest thing about it is there's next to no downside for using it. It does have a resource meter that charges insanely fast after not using it for a second. And you are unable to fire with a matrix up, but you can swap from matrix to fire so quick it doesn't fucking matter. Oh, and did I mention that this deletes every fucking projectile? That's right, everything that leaves an enemy's gun behind is fair play. Pharah, Tracer, Mei, Zarya, all their ults can be devoured by this cone. Regular fire? Devoured. The only things that aren't devoured are things like Zarya and Symmetra's beams, Winston's lightning, Roadhog's hook, Junkrat's ult.
I, don't think he has a foot left, guys.
It's like Bastion just unloaded into just his foot.
Oh god, I can't even look.
It's alright, love. I got you. Let's just go over why it's so bad, okay?
Alright, for all the feet out there.
That's my girl. Seriously, this is hilariously bad. He spends over half a minute raving about how it deletes everything in the game, then lists off 5 things that it doesn't delete. It's almost as if this game is balanced, and characters can counter certain BS abilities.
And unlike Ryan's shield, which actually has some negative consequences, nothing bad happens for taking abuse with this. You can delete as much as you want, and only time affects your resource meter. You know what, whatever.
Alright, there's a lot of bad things to cover here. We already said it's not nearly as big as he insinuates, and there are things that it doesn't delete despite him saying twice that it deletes everything. The real kicker is how he complains about no negative effects. When there are. It only lasts 4 seconds fully charged and takes 10 seconds to recharge fully. Insanely fast, my small left toe. Even his future self realizes how whiny he sounds.
My favorite part is how he compares it to Reinhardt's shield, like it's better, when that is so not true. Any competitive Overwatch player will tell you Reinhardt is so hard to not pick because his shield is just that good. D.Va's is based on time, but his is based on health. And I can pretty much guarantee you that no matter what you throw at Reinhardt's shield, it'll last longer than 4 seconds. Not to mention the size difference. Reinhardt's is big enough to actually defend the payload, and a few teammates standing behind him. D.Va's is pretty much only big enough to protect her, and only good for protecting teammates if you're on point about blocking stuff like the ults she can absorb and stuff. But that actually takes skill, and D.Va is
so fucking simple. It's time for the ult. Her ult sends her mech out and jettisons D.Va from the pilot seat to run around as the almost jailbait, eye candy, one-dimensional fan service wank she is. The mech will move forward based on trajectories, meaning if you're standing still, it stays there, but if you're boosting, you can send it forward or even into the sky to get a surprise on your opponents. The mech will give every enemy a warning symbol showing if they're in the deadly range or not. The blast can be avoided by standing behind walls or shields. D.Va herself is, of course, impervious to the explosion. Didn't used to be, but again, that just proved too difficult for the pro gamers that play D.Va.
Because gosh darn hick heck frick frack paddywhack give Autumn a toddy. Excuse my language. Because not being able to blow yourself up with her ult makes D.Va so broken and too easy. Does it really make it easier to play her? Yes. Does it make her ult broken? No. D.Va being immune to her ult was a necessary buff. Her ult was almost useless before because you couldn't viably use it unless you had something to get behind. But if you did, so did the enemy. It's incredibly easy to dodge. Heck, you can stand behind a light post and be fine. Its realistic and viable use is fleshing out an enemy team, and that's only good if you're good at making sure the mech goes where you want it, which again, takes some skill.
We're playing D.Va is also quite nimble in this form, but she is a delicate flower, so no hate-filled comments in her streams, okay? Otherwise she'll get her top donators, aka internet boyfriendos, to white knight her so hard you won't know which is worse. The sick burns you've been inflicted, or the fact that the white knights think they have a chance with her.
Again, man, this sounds like a personal problem, and you might want to get it looked at. In all seriousness, though, if this is supposed to be a joke, A, it's really hard to tell through that disdainful tone the whole time, and B, is again, pretty bad taste towards female streamers and gamers. You're basically saying that the only way a girl gamer could get popular is if she had a hot bod that she shows off and her entire following is a bunch of horny guys hoping to get some. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again for emphasis, this is wrong, and also not funny. I know I didn't laugh.
We're playing All in all, she's not a bad hero to play gameplay-wise. She does her job and she does it well for little to no effort. She provides defenses for her and her team and can clear points. However, her character and lore are garbage. The only thing worse than them being the shitty memes that are regurgitated again and again and again and again with no differences, but people still eat them up because mindless drones. We hate change. We hate change and variety, so please keep going on to content creators' streams and Twitters to let them know that they should keep making the same thing over and over and over again.
So you end off on the note that she's good and does her job with little to no effort. Well, that might be slightly true, but definitely not to the extreme you're saying. This makes her a great starting tank for the people who want to learn the role. She's mobile, hard to kill, and provides good offensive and defensive options. I know I certainly appreciate her being in the game.
You call her lore and background garbage with nothing but your personal taste and opinions to back it up, which is fine, but going around insulting girl gamers and making assumptions about her being an attention whore is not what I would call respectfully stating those opinions. You let that smelly rotten onion just hang out for all of us to smell.
And the memes. Yeah, they can get tired after a while, but should what the fandom does affect how you see the character? Besides, MLG memes are just gonna happen with any competitive game. D.Va just happened to be the perfect candidate. If they're not your taste, I know I can get bothered sometimes, you don't have to look at them.
And holy communion crackers, did he just talk about the Overwatch community and say something about no change in variety? In a video talking about a female pro gamer turned mech pilot who fights alongside a talking monkey, ask a Brazilian DJ with a wub gun for his autograph, and can get healed by an Egyptian sniping grandma? That doesn't even need touching.
And up until the 3rd gym, I used a Bidoof on my team as an HM slave because I didn't want to teach any Pokemon on my team HM moves. Eventually, I filled up my team and the Bidoof got boxed. When I finally made it to Sunny Shore City, I ended up going to my PC to check out the Dialga I just caught, and saw the Bidoof and couldn't help but think, poor Bidoof, all he wanted to do was run free and destroy lives in battle. But he never had the chance. Instead, he was forced to learn a bunch of HM moves and only served the purpose of using them outside of battle so I could advance in the game. Well, unfortunately for Bidoof, he has basically been labeled as an HM slave and will forever probably be used as one. Well, misused as one. And this got me thinking. So welcome to the top 5 misused Pokemon.
Whoa! Hold the phone, Mr. Serpa, because I can't afford another one. What classifies as misused? You aren't going to give us some sort of criteria so your audience can see if your choices fit? Do we assume you mean the standard definition for misused? Without the clarification, it makes it difficult to see why you chose these entries. And the line about Bidoof wanting to battle? If that's what you mean for your criteria, then that causes some other problems which I'll explain later.
In the number 5 spot, we have Talonflame, or I guess any Pokemon that has or can have the Flame Body ability. If you didn't know, having a Pokemon with Flame Body in the front of your party decreases the amount of time it takes for eggs to hatch. Being said, it's very useful to people who are breeding or shiny hunting with the Masuda method. In the beginning of X and Y, I was really into breeding because I had never really done it before, and I don't know, it was just fun. And I always found myself having a Talonflame at the front of my party, just helping me speed up the process of breeding with its ever so useful ability. The poor guy, he just wanted to go out into battle and maybe fly me places every once in a while. But since I already owned a battle-ready Talonflame with Gale Wings, the flame-bodied Talonflame never touched battle.
Because help bringing life into the world is such a terrible thing, right guys? Alright, on Talonflame here. Let's break this down. First, why is Talonflame being used for breeding a misuse? Just because someone may use it for breeding doesn't necessarily mean it never sees action in battle. And so what if it's just used for breeding? I found it incredibly useful when, like you, tried out breeding for the first time and used my Talonflame for not only hatching, but raising the levels of said Pokemon in the Battle Chateau. With Talonflame specifically, Gale Wings is its other ability, but it's a hidden ability, meaning that it can only be obtained in Gen 6 through trading or the Friend Safari, which you can't unlock until after beating the Elite Four. While Gale Wings is the better of the two, unless you're talking about post-game competitive battling or you traded for one after the game allowed you to have a Pokemon of that level, you're stuck with the Flame Body as an ability, which isn't a bad ability for battling either. 30% chance of burn on physical contact is really useful, especially when burn halves the opponent's attack stat when Talonflame's defenses aren't the best. Talonflame is still viable for the main story with its main ability. There's also the fact that in Gen 6, it's arguable that it's the most encouraging with breeding as of this video because of the super trading feature that made EV trading much easier. There's a trend that gets worse further on, and that's the fact that Pokemon can't be used for anything other than battling, which is bullcrap on many levels, but I'll touch on that later.
The number 4 spot goes to Relicanth. Relicanth was always a less common Pokemon for me. I mean, outside of a couple times in competitive play, I never used Relicanth on my team once while playing through any game. But there was always one time in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and even Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that I used a Relicanth, and that was to catch Registeel, Regice, and Regirock. If you don't know, the only way that you can catch these legendary Pokemon is if you go to the sealed chamber with a Relicanth and a Wailord to trigger the event. This opens up the caves where the legendary Pokemon hide. Even though Wailord is also used in this process alongside Relicanth, I've never experienced misusage with Wailord because I've actually used him twice throughout my playthroughs of Pokemon Emerald. But after I did this event, Relicanth would always go straight to the PC, never to be used again.
The problem with calling Relicanth misused here, at least in Gen 3, is that in Generation 3, Water was a special type, and with Relicanth's better attack stat, it couldn't use its Water type all that well on offense. So, because Relicanth is used as a key to unlock the legendary trio in Hoenn, it's misused? I would say it gives it another purpose. With what I said earlier before the physical special split, having Relicanth as a key does give it a purpose when there are better water types to choose for battle. I'd like to also mention Relicanth's origins. It's based on the Steelacanth, a fish thought to be millions of years old. Yeah, it's a one-time use sort of thing, but if Game Freak designed the game this way, how is it misused? Doesn't it make sense that an ancient fish Pokemon is part of the key to unlocking the legendary trio that were either sealed away or dormant for thousands of years if we go by their Pokedex entries? It honestly makes Relicanth really freaking hardcore, dude! You want these 3 awesome Pokemon, you gotta get me and my bro Wailord here, brah.
The number 3 spot goes to Audino. One of the main perks of Audino is that if it is found in the wild, it gives so much EXP once it's knocked out. This makes Audino very helpful if you're trying to grind your Pokemon up for the next gym or challenge, or if you're doing a Nuzlocke and you don't want to be under level. But one of the main disadvantages of Audino is that it's just not a good Pokemon. Other than it having a good HP stat and relatively good defenses, its stats are really not great. And combined with its mediocre level up moveset, Audino is just not an optimal Pokemon to use at all. And that being said, Audino was mostly only utilized for its ability to give out a lot of EXP once it's killed in the wild. Poor Audino just wants to get caught in battle with, but instead him and all his friends in a route are getting decimated by a 10-year-old trying to level up his Pokemon.
Yes, Audino isn't the best stat-wise compared to others, but it does have its uses for support moves. It can learn great offensive and status TMs, which you neglect to mention. Did you forget about Mega Audino? Making it more of a tank to help set up with things like Trick Room, Thunder Wave, and Attract, to name a few. It's still a viable option even if it's not the best. It's also an incredible tank in the NU tier. Sure, it's not the best tier there is, but it's still a beast in that tier. Not to mention, Pokemon isn't meant to be super difficult either. You should be able to get through the games with whatever party you choose. The mentality that a Pokemon is good or bad strictly by its competitive strength disregards what other things Game Freak might want to do with a specific Pokemon. And isn't it giving it a purpose to easily grind off still a purpose? Sure, it's not a great purpose, but still one that Game Freak intentionally put into the game with Audino. Pokemon is an RPG series aimed at kids, and an easy way to help kids level up their mons is a nice thing Game Freak put in.
The number 2 spot actually goes to 2 Pokemon, Bidoof and Bibarel. Since both of these Pokemon essentially do the same thing, but Bidoof is just more common early game, I felt it would only be right to place them here together. As I said earlier in the video, both of these Pokemon have been essentially labeled as HM slave Pokemon. They rarely serve a purpose on any team and are rarely seen in competitive play, unless you run a curse simple Bibarel. And in that case, you're a cool guy in my book. But these Pokemon are pretty much only used as HM slaves. I mean, literally the only upside of Bibarel to Bidoof is that it can learn a couple more HM moves. Come to think of it, I can't even tell if these Pokemon are really being misused. It almost seems as if they were made to be HM slaves. They have bad stats, combined with an amazing learn set for HM moves. It just seems way too practical.
I'm sorry, Mr. Serpa. I regret to inform you that we have to amputate your foot because you just shot it off! If the Bidoof line was designed to learn a ton of HM moves, then that's their purpose. They're specifically designed to be your HM slaves in the Sinnoh games if you didn't want to put said HMs on your team. This is the number 2 spot on your list. If it isn't misused like you said, it shouldn't even be here. If we go by the assumed criteria, Bidoof and Bibarel break it. You also just admitted that there are other purposes a Pokemon can have, so why continue the notion that a Pokemon has to be used for battle? The Pokemon that inspired this list doesn't even qualify, and so help me, don't you dare talk to me or my son ever again.
And finally, the number 1 most misused Pokemon is going to be Ditto. Now, Ditto is a Pokemon with pretty horrible stats actually, all of them being exactly 48, and only having access to 1 move, and that 1 move being Transform. So yeah, Ditto seems like a pretty trash Pokemon, and yeah, that's right. He has minor use in competitive play because of his Choice Scarf Imposter set, which basically creates a clone of your opponent's Pokemon, but faster. But the alternate use of Ditto is that Ditto has the ability to pretty much breed with every Pokemon, with some exceptions like most legendary Pokemon. And for this reason alone, Ditto is number 1 on the list. A Pokemon that just wants to battle alongside its trainer, take down other trainers, and collect gym badges is instead thrown into a daycare with any Pokemon of its trainer's choice and forced to produce offspring. So yeah, pretty disturbing if you ask me.
Before my rant, let's talk about Ditto. Yes, it has crummy stats and became a breeding machine. So, because it's not a great battler and thus not used for battling and people primarily use it for breeding, it's misused. I know Ditto is a Gen 1 Pokemon. It was a neat gimmick as a copycat Pokemon, but with breeding introduced in Gen 2, Game Freak gave it the ability to breed with almost every Pokemon then and now, making its copycat nature a super useful tool for creating the team you want. It's like Game Freak intentionally designed it this way or something.
Oh, hey everyone. Welcome back to Underlab. I see someone's killed all the monsters again. You'll have to give me a moment to clean that up later. So, the genocide path, it's pretty much the epitome of evil, right? Killing all of those innocent monsters so carelessly.
Carelessly? To go on the genocide run, you have to make the conscious effort to kill everyone. It's not something that a player would accidentally do on their first run. Or are you using the word in the connotation of no care for others? Because that's not how the word works, sorry. And to cover my basis, being reckless and constantly trying to kill every last monster by walking around in various spots are 2 very different things. English, mother trucker, do you speak it?
A lot of people question what the purpose of the genocide path even is. To be frank, it isn't clear. It certainly adds another dimension to the game, however, one that is eerie and unlike anything else within Undertale.
The purpose is unknown. Well, the whole game is about the consequences of your actions, so putting in a complete murder path when there is a complete pacifist path makes sense. Is it really that hard to grasp?
But could you make a case for it? Is there actually justification to commit genocide upon monster kind? Well, in some respects, yes. Now I realise this is going to be a divisive video. Please keep in mind that I personally much preferred the pacifist run, and I feel there will be plenty of counter-arguments to what I'm about to say.
Hi there, that's me you're talking about. So please enlighten me with your logic. I mean, I'm sure this won't be poorly justified. There's no way defending complete slaughter of everyone can go wrong. I mean...
I felt this would be an interesting video to make, however, as it may give some of you a completely different perspective on Undertale. Now, I love all of the characters in Undertale as much as the most devoted fan can, though there's no denying that each of them are heavily flawed in their own ways. While you could argue that you should help them overcome said flaws rather than judge them for it, in some cases it's so extreme that I was left wondering just what exactly I had unleashed upon the surface by the time I had completed the game.
He's talking about the pacifist run, by the way, and this itself doesn't make much sense because you, the player, make friends with everyone in the underground when you break the barrier, showing how nice and caring humans can be. You help all the major characters in the game with their issues and figure out how to get all the monsters to spare you. You wouldn't be unleashing Armageddon when everyone became your friend. Alphys wouldn't go back to making freaky experiments because, well, that was to break the barrier. Undyne was kill happy to humans because she wanted to break the barrier. Mettaton wanted to spread his proverbial wings to the humans and prevent Asgore from committing mass murder himself, but you showed him who needed him most. Asgore regrets doing everything but feels that there is no other way to break the barrier. Did you not pay attention when you played the game? Yeah, there are characters that are extreme, see Undyne, but because the main motivations of a lot of the characters were to break the barrier, a lot of that's going to either be toned down when they leave or evolve into something else. Undyne again, for example. When you go on her date after trying to kill you, her passion and ferocity is put towards trying to be your friend and cooking. Now she's just an aggressive, passionate fish that won't necessarily strike down every human she sees. If this was another possible justification for killing everyone, you're wrong. And to cover my basis, if this was a joke, your tone doesn't imply it was a joke.
This onion won't make me cry!
Firstly, let's start by putting ourselves into the human shoes. Now I've heard some players say that you're not truly playing as Frisk unless you're on the pacifist run. I'll leave that to you to decide. For now, let's just pretend we're the human who has fallen down and has to escape the ruins.
This is going to bite him numerous times, by the way. The end result is not pretty.
Things seem pleasant enough, but our very first encounter is with a deranged flower that attempts to kill us. Talk about a bad first impression. Thankfully, Toriel soon rushes to our aid. I know what you're already thinking. I'm going to have a hard time, or let's just say a bad time, trying to justify why there's a fairly good reason for killing Toriel. Well, you're not wrong, but we'll get to that.
And this is where the video starts to unwind itself. Since we are supposed to be in Frisk's shoes here, let me do the explaining on what the most likely natural thought process would be in this situation. Oh, hey look, a friendly flower! Monsters don't seem so bad. Ah, he's trying to kill me! This nice goat lady saved me and healed all my HP. Maybe not all monsters are bad. She seems nice enough. And there we have it. Frisk in this instance would not necessarily have the desire to attack monsters.
Toriel literally holds her hand for a time within the ruins, and her presence trivializes anything that could oppose the threat. The moment she disappears, however, monsters emerge in the dozens and attempt to kill us.
Let's disregard what happens in this whole tutorial section of the game! Let's jump past what Frisk would be thinking at this point. All the monsters are out for blood! No. Let's continue from where I left off. That Frogget encounter Toriel stops, if Frisk doesn't attack it. That shows Frisk two things. One, Toriel does have some kind of authority here, and two, Froggets are not killing machines and can be talked down, or given an angry look in this case. Setting up that this frog you encounter a few times can be appealed to. And one last thing to bring up here. A lot of monster magical attacks are just icebreakers in their culture, as magic isn't deadly to them. This is evidenced by a throwaway line that mentions birthday cards that shoot out bullet hell patterns. The random encounters think you're a monster too, and they don't know that they're harming you.
You could argue that they're misguided or afraid of you, but that doesn't change the fact that they can reduce your health to 0 and force you to restart. Remember, most monsters don't know that a very determined human is capable of that. For all they know, they just killed you. I really don't think it's unfair to argue that you're justified in killing random monsters in the name of self-defense.
So, being afraid of you and attacking out of being afraid is reason enough to kill them? Boy, don't you sound heartless. By the logic you presented here, you could say that both Frisk and the monsters acted out of self-defense, which would make Frisk no better than the monsters who lashed out. Double standards are fun! And let's look at Frogget's text when you get its health low. Frogget doesn't want to fight anymore, so even if you do decide to attack it, it's able to be spared and you do not have to kill it. It's literally giving up on trying to attack you. And to continue on from earlier, Toriel teaches you to try and talk to the monsters you encounter via the act command. You were advised not to kill anything, as that would be a nasty thing to do and there's always another way out. The only monster that actively tries to kill you in the kill or be killed manner and not in the protect everyone is Flowey. Frisk could then take this information and realize, Hey, I don't have to hurt anyone to leave me alone?
Sure, most of them are easy enough to placate, but why are they attacking you in the first place?
Read the text. Mold small blocks your way. Now this could mean a couple different things. 1, it was purposely in your way to be a douche. Or 2, it happens to be there when you encountered it and you can't get it to clear your path until you kill it or spare it. Rockets seem to be the most misguided ones, but they can easily be spared if you compliment them or get their health low, and Wisman, that thing is so timid that when you run into it and try to do anything but kill it, it runs away. Vegetoids are just weird.
Well, we'll get to that a little later. Now, I will admit it's a little harder to argue as to why that then justifies hunting them down and killing every single random monster you can. They always seem to attack you first, however. Maybe you just wanted to wander aimlessly around the ruins for a few hours, but the monsters have other ideas.
But that's not how combat works, you dipstick! You encounter them in some way, shape, or fashion if you read the text again and attack you first? No, you're always given the option to fight, act, use an item, or mercy first. And since this is an RPG with multiple options for proceeding, it's only natural for the players to explore every option available. The only times when the monsters attack you first is Undyne and Sans. In every other encounter in the game, you get to make the first move. The monsters just send you to the encounter screen. Yes, they run into you and trigger that. Some may even have the intention of fighting, but they are never the ones to attack first. It's like you encounter someone you don't know. You run into them, they run into you, etc. They don't know your current motivations, and if we follow your logic, you'd be the one to start the fist fight.
Still, perhaps we should look at this as less why complete genocide is justified, and instead more why killing every monster you come across is. Finally, we reach Toriel's home. It seems like we'll finally get to enjoy a bit of peace and quiet, as the motherly goat monster restocks us and sends us on our way. Or not, apparently. Instead, she decides she's going to destroy the exit to the ruins in order to ensure you can never leave. Now, don't get me wrong, I know she does this because she wants to protect you, however, it's still an incredibly extreme thing to do. If we allowed her to succeed, we'd be stuck in the ruins forever, a place which seems to be quite lackluster and claustrophobic, unable to ever see our friends and family, if we have any, on the surface again. We as players know that by repeatedly sparing her, she'll let us pass without having to kill her. Though how would the human know this?
This is the closest justification you have that's valid to killing Toriel, but even then it's very thin. Allow me to answer your question because you overlooked something. If we go by your run and we look further into the video, you will notice that the names are pink, and that means that your Frisk talked to the last Frogget telling you about sparing someone even when their name isn't yellow. It's a hint to the boss fight with Toriel, and if you keep talking to said Frogget, you can get their name colors to change to pink when you encounter them. This means that Frisk could have been smart enough to try that out and not kill her. She was the only one to protect you from the one enemy thus far that has attacked you before you could attack it. Why not show the same response back? Frisk would be sparing her as she spared you. That is how Frisk would know, especially if we use your footage as evidence.
If you attempt to talk to her, you realise you can't think of anything to say. Therefore, I interpret sparing her repeatedly as simply refusing to fight until she gives up. If I was in that situation with a monster who had just admitted to trying to prevent me from ever escaping, and was then throwing fireballs at me, of course I'd fight back, and I think many other people would as well. It's why a lot of people end up accidentally killing Toriel on their first playthrough.
But you aren't trying to justify this from the player's perspective, you're trying to justify it from Frisk's perspective. Your and other people's look on the situation do not matter when trying to look at it from Frisk's eyes. Laying down the facts of the situation will help determine what Frisk would most likely be thinking. Toriel clearly cares about them. She gave them food, shelter, and protection. She did save them from Flowey, the only monster to attack you before you could attack it after all. But Frisk needs to keep going and try and get home. This goat lady is nice, but they can't stay. Being trapped in the ruins seems like a scary thought, especially for a child, but Frisk knows it's out of care, due to her dialogue with Frisk. Putting all this together, it makes the most sense that Frisk would be very wary about attacking her and wouldn't want to hurt the person taking care of them, leading to something that they remembered in the ruins about sparing over and over, refusing to fight. Being attacked by fireballs would be scary, but if they were low in health, they will realize that they aren't being attacked anymore and the attacks are avoiding them. And you don't even bother to mention that part. And this further shows Toriel doesn't want to hurt them, leading to sparing Toriel.
They simply don't realise that it's possible to spare her. Therefore, once again, it's self-defense. I'd also like to take the opportunity to point out that Toriel is something of a hypocrite. Why does she smear Asgore for not taking a single soul and then claiming the souls of 6 humans on the surface, when she herself is capable of doing that?
Just because someone is capable of doing something doesn't mean that they're going to do it. Asgore feels that there is only one way, and that is to get the 7 souls to break the barrier forever. Toriel has never taken a human soul and yes, does attack you, but at low health her fireballs begin to avoid you. It's like this. Take me and another random black belt. Let's say that we are both attacked by someone. The other black belt kills the person in one move without mercy, while I just disable them and decide to take it easy on them near the end. Does that make me a hypocrite that I chose not to finish them off?
It's somewhat unrelated, though it proves what I was saying. All the characters in Undertale have noticeable imperfections. So, we escape the ruins only to come across Sans and Papyrus. While the pair of them are comedic and funny, take into consideration that Papyrus is hell-bent on capturing you. More on that in a bit.
Yes, please do keep this in mind. Also, by the way, it's not to kill you. Yes, capturing isn't great either, but you also have to look at Pap as a character. He doesn't know the consequences of handing you over to Undyne. Plus, Pap is pretty harmless. Messing up his puzzle that was meant to zap you, the spaghetti on the table, the tile puzzle becoming way too easy.
I heard that!
Yeah, shush.
For the time being, as we explore Snowdin, we're once again attacked by all manner of random monsters, as well as the Royal Canine Unit. While we can be kind of merciful to them, they certainly never give the same treatment to us.
Yes, because Icecap strutting into view is definitely trying to initially attack you. Can you get the notion that running into monsters is the same as attacking you out of your head? They are not the same thing. As for the Royal Dog Unit, I'll give you that they try to eliminate you in every type of run, but with the others, yeah, they have attacks, but that isn't their intent necessarily. Greater Dog is waiting for your commands to begin with. Lesser Dog's attacks are basically a dog trying to get on you because they are excited to see you. You're assuming that Frisk would have this one mindset and would not try to treat these monsters as actual dogs to see what happens. Child's curiosity is a powerful thing.
Like in the ruins, almost everyone in Snowdin wants us dead. Why shouldn't we fight back when they're the ones attacking first?
Underlab is a terrible listener! Okay, let's move on before I decide to stab myself with a spear.
When we reach the town, everyone has already evacuated. If you went on to kill all of the non-aggressive monsters in Snowdin Town, then I really would have a difficult time trying to justify that. However, you don't. Instead, you come across Papyrus. Now he's far from the worst, as he only wants to capture you. Fair enough in some respects. Think about it though, if Papyrus wasn't so incompetent, he'd put you in a jail cell that you couldn't escape from when he beats you. If we allowed that to happen, Undyne would soon show up and take you to Asgore in order to kill you and take your soul. While that's not what happens, remember, Papyrus's inadequacy is the only thing preventing it. Being defeated by Papyrus under these conditions is just a delayed death sentence. In this case, why shouldn't I fight back?
But in Genocide...
I freaking spared them, you moron! Excuse my language.
There's also the fact that if this were not a genocide run, then this would happen. But since you are trying to justify a genocide run, let's roll with the actual events for right now. Frisk disregards all the puzzles, and Pap talks to them about he still believes them to be a good person, even to the point of taking you under his wing. He isn't even talking about capturing you anymore. And if you do decide to spare him, he lets you go. Pap doesn't even fight. He spares you. If you decide to continue and attack him when he showed you mercy, who's the monster now? Not to mention, canonically, Sans mentions how if you could still pretend to be human for Pap, that would be great. Frisk in the Genocide run is losing all their empathy and humanity while gaining a higher level of violence. Undyne isn't even mentioned all that often either, and Frisk at that point would have no reason to assume that Undyne is more than just a friend of Pap's. Yes, the mention of being captured is frightening, but when it's coming out of this goofball's mouth, would Frisk worry that much? I mean, the guy's obsessed with spaghetti and puzzles.
Hey! That is Mr. Goofball to you.
And when you normally fight him, it's only when you absolutely suck at the dodging where he captures you. My point boils down to, Frisk would not know the information the player would, and would have no logical reasoning to kill Papyrus.
Sure, he may let you pass if you lose him 3 times, but even then he's clobbered you likely quite painfully with his bone attacks by now. That's hardly very polite of him.
I realize you bring up what I brought up in my last interjection, but that does not invalidate what I was getting at. Since there's no canon results out of the fights, as in, Frisk getting captured by Papyrus in anything but a genocide run, is something that can only be put as a possibility and not a fact. Yes, that can happen, but that's not necessarily what does. We're talking about the genocide route anyway, so bringing up events that happen in other routes does not strengthen your point. Need I remind you that the text describing Papyrus in the genocide run is, Papyrus is sparing you?
You'd think by now the monsters would have learned their lesson, but apparently not. The inhabitants of Waterfall are as eager to attack you as anyone else.
Learned their lesson? They are part of the Snowdin area. They would not have known about you killing everything at this point. As for you encountering them, Aaron fluxes in, Washua shuffles up, Shiren hides in the corner but somehow encounters you anyway. The only one that's inherently aggressive towards you is the Mad Dummy, but even then, that's only a neutral and pacifist. Also, Temmie, I guess, but it's Temmie and they are on a separate plane of existence.
Yeah, sure, I'm just going to be nice to you and let you go when you're actively trying to kill me. Or on second thoughts, no, I'm not. We soon come face to face with Undyne, who seems to think she's a hero for trying to stop you.
Just gonna glaze over Monster Kid, and how in order to continue the genocide run, you have to attack him? In cold blood? Sure, he's a bit annoying, but he never meant any harm from the start. He just gushed about Undyne to you as any little kid would gush about their heroes. But no, this Frisk almost murders a kid for the heck of it. And when you get to Undyne, yeah, she's gonna be pissed you nearly killed one of her kind right in front of her. She is a hero to her people, so she isn't acting like a hero. She straight up is one if Monster Kid is anything to go by. She stepped in front of Monster Kid to protect him, and she took the blow. Undyne may be aggressive and highly passionate, but that does not prevent her from having a sense of morality, and she saw Frisk, or should I say Kara at this point, trying to to kill a kid as wrong. Oh, and then there's the name of the song that plays when you fight her. Battle against a true hero. Well, would you look at that?
The same human who has been assaulted by monsters time and time again. She may have more of a reason for it if you've killed every monster up until now, but that hardly changes the fact that she attacks you regardless of what you've done.
Okay, I can give you Undyne is justified, but only in the other runs. As I just ranted about, Frisk just tried to brutally murder a kid who was not threatening in the slightest. She gets pissed and attacks you. At this point, Frisk is the cruel monster. She's completely justified in trying to kill you here. I could see this as now self-defense for Frisk, but considering everything, it's no longer self-defense. It is on purpose trying to wipe the monsters out. Also, you get the first move this time.
Just like every other monster, Undyne wants you dead, and in my opinion, fighting back when you're having literal spears thrown at you is hardly unjust. Moving on to Hotland, and we're denied the opportunity to kill Alphys. Alphys is one of the least offenders, though even she has done some extremely questionable things. Her experiments within the True Laboratory border on sick pseudoscience.
You keep bringing up information that this Frisk would not know. You only know about the experiments in the True Pacifist run. You can't suddenly say Frisk knows something when they would not. I know this game is meta, but not that meta, silly.
And the devious puzzles she's made using technology could get someone seriously hurt. Let's not forget the multicolored tile puzzle full of piranhas that she made. Oh, and she also made a killer robot. Maybe someone should stop her before she develops an atom bomb as well.
You know what? I'm gonna be skipping over the rest of the repeated points because I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over. But one quick thing. Mettaton being a killer robot was mostly a show until you actually face him. Because of Alphys' self-esteem issues. He tries to kill you later, yes, but he's still a show host through and through.
Let's take a brief moment to talk about Muffet. Like all the other monsters, she attacks us unprovoked. But that's not her only crime. She sells confectionaries at an extortionate price. Now remember, in the underground, food is essentially healthcare.
Really? Really? Charging too much for sweets is reason to kill her? Are you kidding me? Muffet doesn't have a monopoly on the food industry, and apparently spiders are in a dire strait with the price in Hotland. As for Muffet attacking you, she was tricked into thinking that Frisk hates spiders, but this is the Genocide run. Self-defense is out the window. Frisk is being malicious. There is no justification anymore.
I don't see any hospitals around, so Muffet is essentially the equivalent of someone charging an unaffordable price for medicine. That's pretty hard to justify.
Muffet isn't the only source of food in the core area. You have the MTT Hotel, the Ice Cream Man, and the other areas aren't that far away. Not to mention, in the game, the little spiders ask you to buy their food, and if you hold on to it until the Muffet fight, she spares you for helping her people. In a normal circumstance, Muffet is the odd one out, but in Genocide, you know the drill.
Mettaton was originally created to destroy humans. While he may now be an entertainer and a show star, he's still something of a sociopath, willing to kill you simply for believing you have a chance at making it past Asgore. You've made it as far as you have, so why doubt you now? Sure, Mettaton has better justification for attacking you on the genocide path, but otherwise he's once again just like every other monster, trying to kill us for no good reason.
You just said Mettaton was justified, then go on to say that there is no good reason? Do you not proofread your scripts? How do you not notice something like this?
Finally, we come to the corridor of judgment to be judged for our sins. While the game clearly disagrees with me as Sans can now deal comic retribution damage to us, I have to question just what exactly is Sans judging us for.
Frisk went out of their way to kill every living being in their way. Mercy was not an option to them. They slaughtered everyone. They killed Papyrus when he never attacked them once, and is Sans brother. Frisk is unredeemable at this point.
This onion won't make me cry.
Lastly, we come to Flowey. Soulless and hateful, Flowey thrives off destruction and death. I'm going to treat Flowey as something separate from Azrael, as clearly without his soul, Azrael has lost all sense of personality and empathy.
Would you really say Flowey has lost all personality? He's not some blank Ben Stein statue. Flowey has a clear personality. He is curious, merciless, heartless, filled with hatred, has no regard for anyone but himself. He's a sadist, toying with you in regular runs. He's more than the stereotypical villain, too. He's cowardly yet cunning. He's an example when someone has the will to live but has no soul. In the Genocide route, he tells you of his descent after he came back to life. He tried to tell his parents that it was him, but it never went as planned. It wasn't the same because he was now incapable of feeling love. He wanted to feel love and care for someone, but no dice. That's why he nearly brought himself to death but came back. He had the power to save. His curiosity got the best of him and started killing everyone and resetting. Yeah, tell me again Flowey has no personality.
And this is only my first time seeing any of their videos since I'm new to the commentary community. But let's—
Foreshadowing.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Blaze the Moving, and I never thought I'd return to the subject of the mysterious Mr. Hunter. Yet here I am doing just that. Now before we get started on the commentary itself, I am going to tell you my opinion on the person I'm commenting on, who is Autumn Chan. I think that she is an alright commentator. I don't think she's a great commentator, I don't think she's an awful commentator, just alright. And today's commentary will be on her latest commentary. So anyway, without further ado, let's begin.
Hey there, it's me Amelia here, and welcome to my second commentary. And I'm going to attempt a somewhat controversial subject.
the mysterious Mr. Enter. Now before you click back, yes, I know there are a lot of commentaries on this guy, or at least there used to be. And yes, I know that quite a few of his haters are really immature. However, this particular video needs to be commented on. It's actually not one of his reviews, but it's about his own work, and it's very revealing. But anyway, enough chit-chat, let's get started.
Somewhat controversial. I hate the fact that Mr. Enter has been commented on a lot by the commentary community, and there are quite a few bad commenters in Mr. Enter. Hell, there's one channel to prove that. But how is Mr. Enter controversial, so to say? In fact, here, I'll give you the definition. Controversy. Disagreement. Typically prolonged, public, and heated. My main point here is that Mr. Enter is not necessarily a debatable or controversial topic. In fact, he's an overdone topic.
Actually, he can be considered a controversial subject. When you make a video on the mysterious Mr. Enter, you can get a lot of heat for it. For example, when MacWidiox made his video The Logic of Mr. Enter on his iBit commentary channel, he got a lot of heat for it. To the point he had to eventually private the video. And when Doodletones made a video on him recently, he also got a lot of heat for it.
Like I said, I'm new to the commentary community, and this is only my first time seeing any videos done by these degrees, so I have no room to say anything about getting heat for doing a video on this particular subject. In fact, I'm new to Doodletones' audience as well, so I haven't seen much of her content. As such, I have nothing much to say just yet.
Oh wait, now I remember! By admitting that you do not have the knowledge of your subject matter, you kill your credibility. That would be like me saying that I hadn't played most of the Sonic games in my Haydex commentary, but instead of doing that, I researched the games and the people who looked over my script were able to add in more points about certain games. I'm not saying you need everyone's life story before making a commentary, but you need to make yourself more familiar with the video you're covering, otherwise people have no reason to take what you have to say seriously.
Aside from that, because of your accent, I'm having trouble understanding what you're saying. If you can, I recommend adding subtitles or captions.
And I will give credit where it's due, he said it's on his own work because of how a lot of commentaries on Enter covered his Anime Atrocity series. But there is a reason as to why people cover his Anime Atrocity series. Because, fun fact, did you know the video Amelia's commentating on is a vlog? And in case y'all didn't know, a vlog doesn't really have much of anything in general aside from, talking about either personal opinions on topics or updates on someone's daily lives. Mainly updates on someone's daily lives.
Who the hell are you to decide what is or isn't commentary material? Everything is commentary material as long as you can do it right.
Well, who the hell are you to call out on her for saying that? You wouldn't want to commentate on a vlog. I don't watch that kind of stuff, but imagine doing commentaries on the travel vlogs that I've done. That'd be pointless. And hell, looking back when I did iMichael, I did do a couple game review attempts, but other than that, why would you want to do a commentary on an iMichael episode or even one of my Angry German Kid videos, just for the sake of constructive criticism? My point is, for those kinds of videos, if you want to give criticism, a simple comment or message is enough. But full-on commentaries are meant to be done on things like reviews, rants, personal opinions on topics, and other commentaries.
Did you see that point? Oh wait, you didn't, because it flew over your head into Kentucky. You're basically trying to dictate what is and what isn't commentary material when Blaze is technically correct in that anything can be material. What you missed is that Blaze misinterpreted what Autumn was getting at. She's saying that vlogs typically don't have things to commentate on, not that they can't be material. Blaze's point actually debunks yours. How is that even possible?
Currently, I have finished the first draft of the novel, which is about 65,000 words.
It might be nice to explain the project a bit more before you tell us the word count. Anyway, he rambles for a long time about his writing history, and I'm gonna skip that.
Right now, he's telling us how many words are in that novel, and that brings him to hypotheticals such as, maybe he wanted to use that information to terribly introduce the novel to his audience, or maybe it's just strictly he wanted to give out there towards that audience before talking about the story. Honestly, so the latter is true, but you never know. He could be a evil.
The reason she skipped that part of Mr. Enter's video is not because she thinks that part of Mr. Enter's video was pointless. The reason she skipped is because she had nothing to say about it. I mean, come on, it's plainly fucking obvious.
I had to go through this part more than 5 times, and nowhere in that point does she mention skipping that part of his video. So now you're just off track.
Do you mean Autumn didn't mention skipping, or Amelia? I'm inclined to believe that you mean Autumn, but that's only after I rewatched this part of your video several times. When working with multiple degrees, strictly using pronouns can lead to confusion like it did here with me. I would reword your point to be something like, Blaze, Autumn didn't mention anything about Amelia skipping a part of the video. She left that part in to let Amelia finish her thought, then tackled Amelia's point about the word count and why Enter would mention it. If you're going to tackle her point, debunk the point she actually made. Now your point is more clear. Sure, it's a little longer, but being vague in your points can cause problems.
But what is going around?
In my humble little opinion, a disaster. And yes, in case you're wondering, I have read the book in question.
What? We haven't even heard what the story's about, and you're already saying this? I understand you could be joking, but come on, homeboy, don't let me hang it. Especially when you make such one-off bullet statements sound so monotone, don't elaborate. What's the point of interjecting?
No elaboration is necessary, because I could understand her point just fine. Also, Amelia's commentary is 24 minutes long, which is a solid length for a commentary. If she did elaborate further on her points, her commentary would be unnecessarily long. And we don't want that, believe me.
Not necessarily. If you just provide a few examples, at most, then that's fine.
Too people missing the point. It's a new record. Let's review what Autumn was saying, because you both missed something important. I know Autumn is talking fast here and mumbles a tad, but she's still able to be made out. She's saying Amelia's interjection was pointless because Enter hadn't even gotten to explain what his novel was about. Amelia was shoving in her opinion and trying to debunk Enter with that opinion, which does not work. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. While Autumn should have focused more on Amelia and her shoving her opinion where it doesn't belong rather than focusing her interjection on her lack of elaborating, she still talks about how Amelia made a pointless interjection. Could have been better worded? Sure, but she still mentions it. Now Blaze, while you're right in that drawn-out explanations can cause video pacing and length to go down the drain, but if the elaboration is thorough enough and covers all the bases without dragging out the video, then it's not really an issue. Amelia barely said anything about why the novel was terrible. With a blanket statement like that, we can't take that at face value. That would be like me saying both you and Michael made sucky commentaries without me saying why. Better get all the information out and add a few extra minutes than be super vague and not get your point across like Mr. Bubsy over here. And Michael, I shouldn't be making your points for you. And add a few examples and you'll be fine? Well, not every case of needed elaboration is example-based. Like what I just spent the last few minutes doing. The points keep flying over your head. You're gonna miss the duck migration if this keeps up.
It started as wanting to be a webtoon or a pilot, some kind of animated series.
I love how you don't mention that you initially thought you could actually sell it to a TV network. Why, it's almost like you didn't want to be accused of having delusions of grandeur.
Hold on, jumping to basic assumptions now, are we? Look, dude, I can't read your mind and automatically know what you're talking about. Who do you think I am, Styler? Nah, that's a pickle, homie. But my main point is to show what you're talking about at least, or else I will literally take our introductory with a grain of salt. Also, consider this an epic, but grandeur. What? I literally have to listen to that word over and over again to get what you meant by that, and even now I still can't understand you. I understand if you have a speech impediment, but I don't know if that's the case or not. Regardless, I highly suggest to speak clearer and articulate your words better, or else your audience will get confused. Well, in the end, I did figure out what you meant, and I'll read the definition of it. Delusion of grandeur. A false impression of one's own importance. Why you don't have anything to back up your claim on how you wanted a TV adaptation? How is this a case of delusion of grandeur? Just because you wanted it doesn't mean he's going to try everything in his power to make it come true just because he thinks it's so important.
First of all, that was not a baseless assumption. Her assumption is completely valid. Granted, she could have provided evidence. I'm not faulting her there, but I have been paying attention to the mysterious Mr. Enter since 2014. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I say that the assumption is valid. Secondly, it's not her fault that you don't understand the definition of a word. Now, don't get me wrong. The fact that you're looking up the definition is a good thing, because doing research is important for a commentary. But blaming the fact that you don't know the definition of a word on someone not speaking clearly is very dumb.
It really isn't dumb to do that. It's perfectly fine. I learned that the hard way.
What? That's his whole interjection. I'm not kidding. I don't know you, and personal experiences don't debunk anything, especially when you don't elaborate. And Michael, you're saying that it's okay to blame others for you not understanding the definition of a word? No, that's wrong. That's blaming others for not trying to figure it out yourself. There's a difference between throwing in big words to sound smart and using a term because you feel it fits. In this case, it's the latter. There's also the fact that Blaze drops the ball and you're nowhere near to pick it up. Blaze thought Autumn blamed Amelia for not knowing what delusion of grandeur meant. What actually happened was that Autumn had trouble understanding what Amelia was saying, now that she didn't know the definition of the phrase. He also accused Mr. Enter of having delusions of grandeur and expects us to take his word for it. That's not okay! I don't know why you didn't cover these points. I get leaving in context, but that leaves in two possibilities. Not seeing the point as bad, or agreeing with him. Oh no.
Now, in a sense, Amelia, you are correct. Logic shouldn't be disposed of even in fictional settings.
You just shot the argument you made a few seconds ago in the foot by saying that. Way to fucking go.
Well, fuck me.
What was the point of interjecting? Also, Autumn didn't completely shoot herself in the foot. At most, she, stubbed her pinky toe. Blaze, she said in a sense. In a sense. In a sense. Yeah, fiction shouldn't toss out all logic, but which logic when it comes to growing around? The inherent concept? Gravity? What everyone eats?
So let's ask, what makes a good story aimed at children?
Not something where people become slaves to their kids as soon as they grow up, I can tell you that.
Are you legit being serious here? These one-off statements and this repetition are gonna make me go insane. I swear I'm gonna lose it. What are you doing, Amelia? Learn to script!
This is a valid complaint. I will give you that. The fact that she is repeating herself throughout this video really is a problem.
One-liners like that? Yes. But repeating herself? What the fuck?
To play devil's advocate here, I can see where Blaze is coming from with repeating herself. Amelia said numerous times that Enter's book was awful, not exactly the same wording, but the same idea is getting across.
To answer that, you're going to need to think about what issues do kids generally go through.
I've actually spent a lot of time with kids through babysitting and substitute teaching, and I really don't think that your book is something that's going to really appeal to them. For one thing, the characters are really bland and stereotypical. They feel like they were written by someone whose idea of what kids are like came from watching Nickelodeon. Like, all kids want to eat nothing but sugar. All kids love getting dirty. But I'm getting off topic. Go on with the video.
But, Amelia, you realize something? Your argument is objective. Pro tips, opinions don't debunk opinions. Okay, thanks. Now I understand you're bringing up their personal experience and how kids nowadays want to be interested in Enter's novel, but that's the thing. While it's anecdotal, this normally means that not all kids are going to have an opinion about Enter's novel and good due to how it's from your experience.
Actually, her experience does debunk Mr. Enter's point, because his point was that children in general would enjoy his novel. And bringing up examples of children that wouldn't proves Mr. Enter totally wrong.
Your opinion on something can't be based on what you're hearing from other people, not even research. It can only be based on personal experience. And it doesn't change when someone else throws their opinion straight at your face.
I mean, I guess you're technically not wrong. What does that have to do with Blaze claiming that you can use personal experience to debunk Enter? Because no, Blaze, that's not how that works. Unless Amelia has worked with every single child on the planet, her personal experience means jack squat. Also, Enter said general. He didn't say all, he said general. There's a difference.
Also, regarding your, I'm getting off topic thing, dude, you're fine. In fact, do you know what that was called? That's right, elaboration!
By admitting that it wasn't elaborate, you just shot another one of your arguments in the foot. Quick, I think you should get a doctor, because your arguments are bleeding badly.
A sense of wonder and intrigue is very important to children's books and children's media. And growing around peer groups, books and movies and games and television shows aimed at a similar audience. We have works like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Sideways Stories from Wayside School. Actually, I think that Charlie is a pretty good way to put this.
Oh boy, here we go. By the way, I love how you put in that little note bitching about your critics. Real mature.
You didn't even argue against him? Like, at all? Please help me. Also, consider this a nitpick from me, but why is the screenshot you took in poor quality than the actual video? I'm actually just getting to take better pictures, homie.
So you admit this is a nitpick, yet you went through with making that argument anyway? Now let me break something to you very harshly. Nitpicks have no place in a commentary, because the purpose of a commentary is to point out legitimate flaws of the video you're covering.
I know it's pretty damn stupid to nitpick, but as I learned the hard way, you don't want to be going on about it.
Couple of things. But first, why did you leave in Blaze's interjection if you just skipped over it? There was a point to be made.
By admitting that it wasn't elaborate, you just shot another one of your arguments in the foot. Quick, I think you should get a doctor, because your arguments are bleeding badly.
Blaze, this isn't shooting her argument in the foot. If anything, it strengthens Autumn's earlier points because that leaves no excuse for Amelia not elaborating earlier. Next, Michael, I don't understand what you're going on about. Don't want to be going on about it? What? Pronoun game? Ah! The nitpicks? You mean nitpicks? I hope you mean nitpicks, because otherwise this makes no sense at all. Also, nitpicks are still valid complaints. They're just minor in the grand scheme of things. It really doesn't make any sense that Amelia's screen cap of Enter's text is lower quality of the original video, especially when she has the regular quality of Enter's video in her own.
Explaining the magic, and keep in mind, I'm using magic in a very loose sense here. It can also refer to something like faster than light travel, whatever is the book's special thing. It's always a dicey proposition.
First, it's really pretentious to put your own work in the same category as these beloved stories.
How is it pretentious to add his own work to this? He's giving examples of what's considered to be unnatural to our world. That's not being pretentious.
It is true that comparing your own project to someone else's doesn't automatically make you pretentious, but you have to keep in mind that the mysterious Mr. Enter has
Michael, buddy, you know you can just cut stuff out if you aren't going to cover it, right? It saved us time to get to what you had to say. There's another point to be made about Blaze and assumptions and Autumn not being wrong, and forget it.
First of all, there are people out there who do want me and my projects to fail. I have plenty of trolls who have a very concerned interest in watching me suffer. And I do know that there are plenty of people who would intentionally try to give me counterintuitive or broken information to make my project worse on purpose.
Have you ever thought about just why that is? Maybe it has to do with the rules on your DeviantArt page, or the time you bitched at a guy for going to college, or the time that you blocked everybody who dared to say that trolls and cyberbullies weren't the same thing, or the time that you used an entire review to bitch about getting requests, or the time you used your Asperger's as an excuse to not take criticism from anyone you don't personally know. Yes, some people are jerks, but quite a few of your antis, myself included, used to be fans before they got turned off by your behavior.
But the first two screenshots, how the fuck will you know that they're valid? Like, at all? Dude, you might want to check the dates on those things, because if they're old, congrats! You just came into an argument with no ammo. As for the Admiral information video, you realize how old that video is? Almost 2 years old. Hell, as far as I know, Bob actually commented on that video. As for the last two screenshots, they're also a year ago. Look at all that credibility. All down the drain. Whoopsie.
Oh great, you're making the same mistake TOT Professor made back in 2013 in his commentary on AnnabethRide commentary. Do you have proof that the mysterious Mr. Enter doesn't stand by the viewpoints he had back when these videos and articles were new? Yes, it is possible that he no longer stays by those viewpoints, but it's extremely unlikely. Just because those examples are old doesn't mean that they're irrelevant. And if he hasn't changed much since then, which is very likely, then these examples are still valid.
You're saying that old doesn't mean irrelevant, but yet you're saying this guy might not have changed? I don't know about the mysterious Mr. Enter, so I have no room to talk. But either way, I'm seeing contradiction.
There's no actual contradiction here, buddy. Blaze is saying that he could have changed, but then is saying it's unlikely, meaning that the examples Amelia brought up would still be relevant, because that means Enter still behaves this way. Whether he's right or not doesn't really matter at the moment, because you are the worst person to play catch with.